everyone, welcome back to Actual English. I'm Jennifer Clyde. It's time for lesson 365 and today's topic is happiness. Part 2 of it is. Now, today we will have the opportunity to listen to what Mary and Martin have to say about their idea of happiness. So it'll be a fun and interesting lesson. Okay, as always, it's not a very difficult topic, so let's begin with our first segment. It's time for Actual Talk.
I was in school last week and I was discussing with some of my older students the meaning of happiness.
Oh, that's good.
What it means to be happy, how you find happiness. What is it that works for you?
If you had asked me that when I was your student's age, I would probably say a permanent vacation where I don't have any obligations, I get to sleep in every day, I don't have anything to do all day. As an adult, I feel pretty differently about it. I've had days where I don't have that much work, and if I'm sleeping in too much, I start to feel unhappy. If I have nothing to do, I don't know, there's something about accomplishment that feels good. What do you think?
You've hit the nail bang on the head. Accomplishment makes you feel good. Having plans and sticking to them and achieving them,
right?
Whether it be a long-term goal or a short-term goal, having something to strive for, in my opinion, is how I certainly deem finding happiness.
Right, and it can be, excuse me, it can be either accomplishments within a family, like personal relationships, those can be accomplishments. Working out an argument, maybe you had a little conflict with your wife or something, and sitting down and really working that out productively. Or it could be work-related, finishing a project, or school-related, getting a good grade on a test in like graduate school or something. Those accomplishments, I don't know, that's what makes me happy.
Yeah, I remember as a child always hearing that happiness was meeting a girl, getting married, settling down, getting a promotion in work. And I think the world's changed now. We're starting to realize that that's not essentially the only thing that gives people happiness. You should look for what makes you happy in life and then pursue that rather than just the industry standard.
Exactly.
Okay, today's interesting actual talk was shared between Martin and Mary. Of course, it's a very simple and easy topic to talk about. They were talking about what happiness means to each of them. Okay, let's take a look together then. Here we go. First of all, Martin says, I was in school last week and I was discussing with some of my older students the meaning of happiness. So he was in school. When? Last week. And what was he doing? He was discussing something with his students. What? The meaning of happiness. Okay. So he was talking with his older students about what happiness means to them. You know, their meaning or their definition of happiness. And of course, he says what it means to be happy. This is what we talked about. How you find happiness. How you find happiness. Now, he's not saying how people look for happiness and discover it. It's not discovering happiness, but how we find, what we think about happiness. Okay? We're talking about what people think of happiness. How people define happiness. And then he asks, what is it that works for you? So he goes ahead and asks Mary, well, what is happiness to you? What is it that works for you? How does happiness work for you, Mary? Mary says, if you had asked me that when I was your student's age, so perhaps in high school, okay, middle school or high school, she says, I would have probably said a permanent vacation. Now, I did edit this part slightly because, you know, she's talking about if she were to answer the same question at a different time period, perhaps when she was a lot younger, she's saying, I probably would have said I would have thought at that time. So this part is slightly edited, slightly changed. Please do keep that in mind, okay? This would probably be the proper way of putting it. I probably would have said, or I would have probably said what? A permanent vacation. A vacation that lasts forever, okay? Where I don't have any obligations. Okay, here's a vocab word. So she's saying that if she were asked the same question, what is happiness? She probably would have said in middle or high school, a permanent vacation. A vacation that lasts forever. Why? Especially because she wouldn't have any obligations. An obligation is what? Here's a vocab word. An obligation is something that you have to do. Something that is to be done, no matter what. If you say that something is obligatory, you're saying that it's mandatory, it's required, it is a must, for example. So, yes, if you don't have any obligations, it means that you are not forced to, you do not have to do something. Okay. And she says, I get to sleep in, meaning sleep until whenever I wanted to, whatever time I wanted to, every day. I don't have anything to do all day. And then she says, as an adult, I feel pretty differently about it. So up till this point, okay, she's saying this would have probably been what she might have thought, what she would have thought at a very young age. But now, as an adult, she feels pretty differently about it. So, she has a different opinion. Happiness means something completely different to her now. She says, I've had days where I don't have that much work. So there are days that Mary isn't that busy. And she says, and if I'm sleeping in too much, what happens? I start to feel unhappy. Aha. So she's saying that when she was a lot younger, she probably really appreciated, having the opportunity or having the chance or the right to sleep in, meaning to sleep until whenever she wanted to. But now she says if she's sleeping in too much, meaning maybe too often, she would feel unhappy. There's something about accomplishment, such as fulfillment, okay, that feels good. Okay, and then she says, what do you think? Now, Martin says, oh, you've hit the nail bang on the head. Here we go. This is an idiom. Hit the nail on the head. Bang was just thrown in there, just to emphasize, okay, just to emphasize, hit the nail on the head. Now, to hit the nail on the head means to say something or to do something exactly the right way, to be 100% accurate, 100% correct, okay? So maybe, let's say, for example, you ask someone a question and that person answers the question perfectly, gives you the correct answer. Then you say, well, you hit the nail right on the head or bang on the head, or simply, you hit the nail on the head, which means you are completely right, okay? Now imagine we have a hammer and a nail. You're trying to put up a picture on the wall. What do? You would hammer the nail into the wall. So you're hitting the nail. And you need to hit the nail right on the head with the hammer to get the nail in the wall correctly. That's where the idiom comes from. So anyhow, he says, yeah, you've hit the nail bang on the head. Accomplishment makes you feel good. Having plans and sticking to them. Them meaning plans, everyone. And achieving them, whether it be a long-term goal or a short-term goal. Yes, all these accomplishments make you feel good. That's the whole point. So having plans and sticking to them. When you stick to something, you are trying to remain faithful to it. You know, you're trying very, very hard to accomplish something that you've set your mind on. So stick to means to do what you have decided to do and not change your mind. So, he's saying having plans, setting plans, and sticking to those plans, meaning not changing plans and remaining faithful to those plans, is a good way to feel happy. Okay? It's all about accomplishments. They can be long-term or even short-term goals. Okay, long-term is something what? Long-term, that lasts a long time. Short-term is the opposite, something that lasts a short period of time. Moving on. Having something to strive for, to aim for. Okay, to strive, to aim for, in my opinion, is how I certainly deem finding happiness. Now, if you deem to do something, you are feeling that, you're doing something no matter what. You're deemed to find happiness. You are more than capable of finding happiness, for example. You're due to find happiness if you're deemed to find happiness. So he says, yeah, certainly deem finding happiness. Right. And it can be either accomplishments within a family. So it can be things related to family, like personal relationships. Those can be accomplishments. So they're both talking about how accomplishments within the family, okay, family-related accomplishments, accomplishments at work, for example, and they continue on. Mary says, working out an argument, perhaps. This could be an accomplishment. Say, for example, maybe you had a little conflict, like an argument or a quarrel, okay, with your wife or something. Now, working out an argument can also be an accomplishment. It could make you feel good. If you work something out, it means what? It means that you're resolving that thing. You can work out an argument. You can work out a problem, which means to resolve that argument, resolve that problem. You're working it out. So if you had a conflict with your wife, your husband, your friend, whatever, work it out. Okay, try to resolve the problem. Sitting down and really working that out productively. Or it could be work-related, not family-related, but also work-related, such as finishing a project. This is also an example or a type of accomplishment. So these two are continuously talking about accomplishments. And then she says, or school-related. This part was omitted, but I just added it to help you understand. She says it can be work-related or school-related. Getting a good grade on a test. That's right. At school, perhaps, your goal is to get a good grade, so you can get a good grade on a test in, like, graduate school or something. Those accomplishments, that's what makes me happy. So these are what makes Mary happy. These little things, accomplishments. Martin says, yeah, I remember as a child, okay, always hearing that happiness was what? When he was little, when he was a child, he heard from people that happiness was meeting a girl, getting married, settling down, getting a promotion at work. These were all examples of happiness. All these things meant happiness to people around him when he was a child, when he was a lot younger, when he was growing up. And he says, and I think the world's changed now. He's saying it's different now. But as a child, this is what I thought. Happiness was what? Meeting a girl and then getting married, settling down. Here we go. Settle down. Settle down means what? Usually, when we say, I want to settle down with somebody, for example, it means that you want to get married and really live a stable life, for example. Okay? After all those years of independence, living on your own, when you finally get married, okay, and have your own family, you're settling down. So these were things that people considered to mean happiness. Dating someone, getting a girlfriend, getting married, settling down, and also getting a promotion at work. Okay, but now It's different. The world has changed now. We're starting to realize that that's not essentially the only thing that gives people happiness. That's true. There are so many other things that give us happiness. All right? And he says, you should look for, you should search for what makes you happy in life and then pursue that rather than just the industry standard. So pursue means to what? Aim, try to make yours, try to gain. So he's saying there are so many other things that you can get happiness from, feel happiness from. So what you should do is what? Look for what it is around you that really makes you happy. And once you find that, yes, then pursue that rather than just the industry standard. This meaning what other people believe, what people generally think means happiness. So pursue that. Aim for that. You know, try your best to perhaps, accomplish that goal. Okay? And then, of course, Mary, she says exactly. So she seems to agree with Martin. So what is happiness, everyone? Just as these two have mentioned. When we're younger, we may hear from adults, this is happiness. You should do this to be happy when you grow up. Of course, that's true, but there are many more things that bring us happiness. Okay, let's take a listen to the conversation one more time.
I was in school last week and I was discussing with some of my older students the meaning of happiness.
Oh, that's good.
What it means to be happy, how you find happiness. What is it that works for you?
If you had asked me that when I was your student's age, I would probably say a permanent vacation where I don't have any obligations, I get to sleep in every day, I don't have anything to do all day. As an adult, I feel pretty differently about it. I've had days where I don't have that much work, and if I'm sleeping in too much, I start to feel unhappy. If I have nothing to do, I don't know, there's something about accomplishment that feels good. What do you think?
Oh, you've hit the nail bang on the head. Accomplishment makes you feel good. Having plans and sticking to them and achieving them,
right?
Whether it be a long-term goal or a short-term goal, having something to strive for, in my opinion, is how I certainly deem finding happiness.
Right, and it can be, excuse me, it can be either accomplishments within a family, like personal relationships. Those can be accomplishments. Working out an argument, maybe you had a little conflict with your wife or something, and sitting down and really working that out productively. Or it could be work-related, finishing a project, or school-related, getting a good grade on a test in like graduate school or something. Those accomplishments, I don't know, that's what makes me happy.
Yeah, I remember as a child always hearing that happiness was meeting a girl, getting married, settling down, getting a promotion in work. And I think the world's changed now. We're starting to realize that that's not essentially the only thing that gives people happiness. You should look for what makes you happy in life and then pursue that rather than just the industry standard.
Exactly.
Okay, everyone, welcome back to Actual Expressions. Let's first of all take a look at some vocab words and then move on to our patterns. The first word we have for you is obligation. Here we go. Let's practice the pronunciation. Obligation. Obligation. One more time. Obligation. We're talking about responsibility, a commitment or commitments, things that we are required to do, things that we have to do, things that we must do. Okay, those are all obligations. What about accomplishment? Accomplishment. I did mention that fulfillment is perhaps a synonym. So here we go. Achievement, effort, deed. Achievement is a good synonym. Okay, here we go. Accomplishment. Moving on to strive. Strive. Here we go. One more time. Strive. Endeavor. Tackle. Okay. Exert oneself. You may strive to do something or exert yourself. So strive means to basically make persistent efforts toward any goal, toward any aim. You're continuously trying really hard. okay, for a goal or an aim. Deem, assume, presume, suppose, even regard. These are all synonyms, okay? Deem, so keep that in mind. And then moving on to conflict. Something in conflict or conflict. Now, usually if you say that things conflict, it should be in the verb form. So, sorry about that. That should be in the verb form. Also, when you say conflict, that will be in the noun form. So, discord difference, okay? If there is a conflict between people, we're saying that there is a disagreement, such as an argument or a quarrel, a fight, okay? There was a conflict between A and B, meaning there was a disagreement, an argument, a quarrel between A and B. So it can also mean friction. And finally, pursue. Here we go. Pursue. It means to aim for, desire, or even purpose. All right. So with all these vocab words in mind, let's move on to some patterns. Hit the nail on the head. In today's actual talk, we had it emphasized with the word bang right in the middle. Hit the nail, bang, on the head. But to hit the nail on the head means to say something or to do something accurately, clearly, 100% correctly. Okay, the right way. Your speech today really hit the nail on the head. So this is a great compliment. This is a wonderful compliment. If a colleague of yours, if your son, daughter, a friend of yours does really, really well, and if you want to compliment him or her, you can say, you know what? You hit the nail on the head. It means you did perfectly. You did really, really well. One more time. Your speech today really hit the nail on the head. Good job. Moving on to stick to something or even someone. This means to remain faithful to something or someone, or to continue to try really hard to pursue something or to gain something, okay? Even though it's hard, you don't quit. You keep doing it. You stick to something or someone. Setting New Year's resolutions is easy, right? What's hard? Sticking to them is hard. So setting, right? Setting New Year's resolutions is the easy part, but sticking to them is hard. Sticking to them is hard. Sticking to them meaning, that's right, remaining faithful to them. Okay, keeping those New Year's resolutions is the hard part. And finally, we have settle down. Settle down basically means to become established in some kind of routine. And I gave you an example. Getting married is a way of settling down as well. I wish my parents would stop telling me to settle down and start a family. So in this sentence, we're talking about getting married. I wish my parents would stop telling me to settle down and start a family. In this case, it means to get married, okay? Okay, that about brings us to an end to today's actual expressions. Practice them more on your own.